Ranallo alongside the legend Frank Shamrock. This is the main event.
Stepping into the mixed martial arts arena for the first time must be a daunting prospect for any newcomer, but you wouldn't know it looking at EA Sports MMA. A contender for the UFC Undisputed Series' previously uncontested crown, EA Sports MMA steps into the ring with a swagger that belies its lack of experience and gives a good account of itself at almost every opportunity. Its fighting style is so different to that of UFC Undisputed that there's no reason both games shouldn't be winners where your wallet is concerned. And although UFC Undisputed is ultimately the better fighter, EA Sports MMA doesn't disappoint and is definitely one to watch in the future. EA Sports MMA makes a good first impression with responsive, mostly intuitive controls that are reminiscent of those in last year's Fight Night Round 4. You move with the left analog stick, throw punches with the right, and shoulder buttons used to modify those controls for kicks and such. Even if you're not familiar with the controls in recent Fight Night games, there's an MMA 101 option accessible from the main menu that does an excellent job of teaching you the basics. And there's also ample opportunity to familiarize yourself with the stand-up, clinch, and ground controls when you start out in career mode. Depending on how narcissistic you are, you might be disappointed with the level of customization that's available when you create your career fighter. There's support for EA Sports Game Face technology, but the results are pretty disappointing. Furthermore, there are no options to manually tweak the physical properties of heads and faces in the game. If you don't use Game Face, you're limited to choosing one of around 50 pre-mades. Licensed clothing options, on the other hand, are excessive, and picking out a shirt from the 245 that are available is hardly worth the effort, given that your fighter only ever wears a shirt briefly before and after fights. While creating your career mode fighter, you're also prompted to choose one of 9 different specializations, all of which have key strengths and weaknesses. The most interesting fights tend to be those that pit two very different fighters against each other, because then you're both trying to force very different agendas and forcing each other to adapt. Wrestlers want to take the fight to the ground at every opportunity, while Muay Thai guys will stop at nothing to get their opponent into a clinch, for example. You can defend against both with a single, well-timed button press, and blocking incoming strikes isn't difficult either. The ease with which you can defend, coupled with your fighter's finite amount of stamina, means that going on an all-out offensive is rarely a good idea, at least not against a skilled opponent. Sadly, there aren't always a lot of those to be found in career mode. If you play on the default difficulty setting, AI opponents don't always put up much of a fight, especially early on. You can win fights simply by spamming jabs over and over again, or later on, by stacking your opponent and hitting him in the gut for minutes at a time while he pointlessly protects his face. Fortunately, the opponents do get more challenging as your career progresses. Regardless of where you're at in your career, you're forced to spend 8 weeks training in between fights. Most of the challenges take under a minute to complete and do a great job of forcing you to use different moves while simultaneously beefing up your fighter's stats. One of the best things about training is that after completing a challenge, you gain the option to just push a button and simulate it anytime you want to reap its benefits subsequently, so you never have to do the same thing over and over again. Inside the ring, you have to keep a close eye on your stamina at all times, and you also need to play to your fighter's strengths and opponent's weaknesses. It's extremely satisfying to finish an opponent after taking a beating from him for the first several minutes of a fight. And by the same token, it's frustrating to suddenly lose against an opponent that you've been dominating. These changes of fortune rarely feel unrealistic though, and the fact that they're not uncommon prevents you from becoming either complacent or completely disheartened during a fight. Unsurprisingly, the most satisfying fights are found online, where opponents are far less predictable than the AI. Online play doesn't suffer from any noticeable lag, and there are some neat options in addition to the requisite ranked matches and leaderboards. Most exciting of these are live broadcasts, which see tournament finalists competing with live commentary in fights that are broadcast not only online, but also on the EA Sports MMA website.
Hello and what's up everybody, we're live on EA Sports live broadcast. Rocky Rivero here, seated next to Preston Dollinger, and we've got a pair of fights for you here today.
If you have even a passing interest in mixed martial arts, EA Sports MMA is unlikely to disappoint. The career mode offers a lengthy and ultimately very rewarding challenge that you'll probably want to play through at least twice using different fighting styles, and both local and online multiplayer matches are a lot of fun. It's unfortunate that the AI isn't more convincing and that lengthy load times permeate every aspect of the game, but EA Sports MMA is deserving of a spot alongside UFC Undisputed 2010 in your collection, even if it can't replace it.